talking, we're on.
All right.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Mechanics Institute. We're here with day 2 of the Summer Championship, all part of the Mechanics Summer Chess Festival. I'm Abel Talamantes, chess director of the Mechanics Institute, and joining me to help me out to provide the commentary for the round 4 is National Master Michael Walder.
Good morning.
So here we are, and we had 3 rounds yesterday. We had our Summer Blitz Championship last night, which was won by Alexander Lenderman with a perfect score. And he's back now, and we have kind of the marquee matchup of the tournament with IM Elliott Winslow as white taking on Lenderman. And the game has started. You see it up on the screen, and it looks like it was a Caro-Kann to start, but Elliott was ready for that. So tell us, Michael. I know you help him prepare, and you guys talk about all this stuff. What do you see, and what do you think?
Well, actually, this is a surprise for me. I looked at some of his games. I didn't see him play Fianchetto Caro-Kann, but I only looked at a handful. So this is quite exciting. He avoids the normal Panabotvinnik stuff. This is a new animal for me. Elliott is playing ultra aggressively here, but I'm suspicious.
And for those of you who just joined us, welcome to the Mechanics Institute. This is round 4 of the Summer Championship. 6 rounds in total, so we'll have 3 rounds today. The time control is game in 60 plus 5. This is USCF online rated. This is the board 1 of the 4th round of our tournament with Elliott Winslow and Alexander Lenderman. Let's go on and take a look at what is our board 2. And let me look up the pairings and put the link for the pairings, so anybody wants to click on that and check it out for yourself. Let me get that. So I'm going to put it in the chat box. That is the link, so you can click and see the standings, the pairings. So board 2 of this event is Alan Finkelstein against Patrick Cutt. Patrick Cutt, he's the only other player that also has 3 out of 3. He has played some close games, survived some scares, got through it all. He has not had to place the top 2 players in the tournament, so it'll probably be kind of a buzzsaw today. But let's see if he can keep the roll going against Alan Finkelstein. And that's this game right here. So Alan Finkelstein is white, Patrick Cutt is black. Alan was having a really good tournament. Then he had to face Lenderman and got caught with a tactic early. So it was kind of a short round 3 for him, but he's trying to bounce back now. What do you think?
Well, this is a Slav type position, and white has space, black has a solid position. I think white is slightly favored here, but there's a whole game ahead here. I think strong players would be happy with either side.
Let me jump back to board 1 really quick, because this is kind of like an interesting setup to me in terms of a Caro-Kann.
Yeah, it kind of looks more like a Grunfeld without the center there yet. White and Elliott's very good at attacking these type of positions. I'm not so sure it's very sound, but white has a tremendous push on the king side already, and black hasn't really developed a strike against anything. So I think the position's rather soft, but I look right now at Lenderman's position. F7 is a target. Things like Queen B3 and Bishop C4. They happen rather quickly. I'm not so sure. If you do that, white doesn't have to castle. He can play king to F1 later if need be. He can expand and grab the center. at some point. I'm not so sure what.
And do you think Lenderman prepared for this matchup, or is he at a level where he's prepared so much for so many matches that?
Yeah, I think he's also. He has his openings down. He doesn't have to prepare. He plays enough of them, and he's very familiar with them. But
wow, look at.
Yeah, no, it's.
And automatically, Lenderman plays G5 like he expected it.
He pretty much has to. Otherwise, Black's kingside is very loose. I'm not sure I would have played that right away. I might have tried Queen B3 and Bishop C4, kind of forcing E6, and then the king is really kind of airy.
Man, look at that. This is wild.
But this is.
This is not what I expected to see, like right off the bat. That's for sure.
Well, it can be very loud. I mean, this is
get some action in this longer time control. Yeah. And if you're watching this, you can see my background. I'm actually inside the Mechanics Institute today. It's a combination of doing the broadcast in because it's fun to be here and do it, but we're also giving out a bunch of trophies to kids and parents. Sunday is a good day for them to come pick it up, and there's free parking outside, so we're handling that too. And then later on at 3 o'clock on Chess Kid, we have the MI Summer Kids Championship. We'll probably have about 60 players for that, so that'll be a lot of fun. So a lot of festivities. And then tonight at 7, we have a free Fisher Random tournament. So let's see if anyone still has any steam after all of the chess this weekend to play that event. But that'll be free and open to anyone. So we'll have some players there. Let me go to another game from this round that I think will be interesting. This is Felix German against Mansour Mohammed. Two mechanics players, about 1900 strength. So this will be a pretty good matchup.
Yes. Again, this is looks like a Nimzo Indian, where both players are playing for their normal plans. I think this slightly favors white, but black is solid. Black is fine.
And I'm looking at a sharp game. I'm going to switch to that right here. It's with Ashik Uzaman as white. He's playing Alejandro Canales. Looks a little bit sharp. It looks like it came out of a King's Gambit accepted.
Interesting.
I was talking to John McCumsky one time. He was saying that Sacramento Chess Club, I guess every year or they used to, and I don't know if you've even been part of it, where they would have a King's Gambit tournament where
I'm familiar with that. I know Brian Doyle played in it, I believe, one year, and he was trying to get me to go. It's fun.
Well, it has to be fun, right? I mean, you get to, experiment and.
We used to joke in Chicago about having a Najdorf tournament, but that's what almost everybody played anyway back in those Fishways. So it's like every tournament was a Najdorf tournament.
Yeah, but King's Gambit is, you're on the edge now. I mean, you're playing some chess that people are definitely not used to, right? Because
yeah, well, there's two great books on the King's Gambit, one by Shaw and the other by Tim Taylor, that are tombs. So if that were to happen, I think you'd have to spend a couple months going through that material.
Preparing for the tournament. You're literally preparing for that tournament specifically.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else. Let's go back to board 1. And Elliot played Bishop D3.
Yeah, targeting the light squares. I mean, Black's king is in the center. If it goes king side, things like Bishop C2, Queen D3, normally too slow, all of a sudden have a lot of poison. You want to jump on those before Black could have put a bishop on F5 and try to plug that up. So
what's Black trying to do here? What's the target? What are you looking to attack?
Well, I think just like the Gruenfeld or the Aliekins, you want to attack at the center. You want to say, the center's pretty fixed at this point. So things like playing bishop g4 and the later e5, but it's hard to do that with the king in the center of the board. So the other way of doing something like this is try to get all your pieces on good squares.
So does it take anything away for white if he looks to castle kingside?
Well, yeah. First, it undefends the h-pawn, so things like bishop g4, bishop takes pawn, and then at the right time, the bishop can go to g6. Even if the pawns are crippled, you got a mass of pawns in front of your castle king if that's the way that you play it. So I think right now, that h-pawn was a can opener. It opened up black's king side, but the king isn't there yet, and it may not even go there. But then again, the king can't be comfortable in the center either. There's all sorts of exciting possibilities, like, what do you do with the black bishop? Does it go to b2? Do you sack it on g5 at the right time? You throw a knight, I wouldn't even be surprised if something like bishop b2 and castles queenside for white, and just throw everything at the center of the board.
Start launching, yeah. Like, does Elliott have that approach that, he's got this game against Lenderman, he's going to have to really make something happen, right? Because Elliott's a talented player himself, so he may not feel like he needs to. But maybe this is different because it is a top grandmaster.
Well, I guess it depends upon the level of player. See, with somebody like Lenderman won't give you much. And so the question is, do you sit there and try to eke out something, make something big, build something out of little, or do you, throw bricks at him and hope that you score? Elliott is capable of playing either way. It's a matter of how he's feeling. If you look back at his games against Sevillano, he played rather solidly. If you look at some of his games against Brown, he threw the kitchen sink at him and occasionally, scored a draw.
Right.
But this is, for me, it's resembling a Grunfeld. The king goes in the center. Black can play things like knight a5 and try to win the c file, the c4 square. Put a rook on c8. Not worry about the king right now because there is nothing's attacking it. Unfortunately for white, the d pawn is undefended. Otherwise, c4 might be very strong here, followed by d5. I would imagine, one of the problems is knight a5 and something popping in on c4. But to answer knight a5, white can play knight e5. And then the rook comes to c8. Again, you're fighting for the c4 square. Yeah.
Is there any? What about any pressure if he could somehow get a rook over to e1 and then maybe something like bishop g5 and then knight g5 and?
Well, the question is, the thing is, if he does sack like this, the queen and the knight, the queen defends e7 along with the king, so he can still continue to fight for the square. I think Elliott's. This is good. I think just trying to get everything developed.
Yeah, I mean, and Lenderman appears comfortable in this position because he's. Wow.
Yeah.
We have one game that just ended. Let me flip to it. That was Ayan Zaman in this position. Just furious attack. He was already up a bunch of material here, and we'll just see the finish. King's there. Queen there. Yeah. And the end is coming, and so quick game for Ayan. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, there isn't much to do here.
Let's peek on number 2 with Alan Finkelstein and Patrick. It appears not too much has progressed here. They're using their time. Actually, you see Patrick Cut. He's down to 47 minutes, so he's definitely been using his time in this game. So let me go back to board 1 here. And Queen D7 has been played by Lenderman. This originated out of a Carol Khan, and Elliot trying to make something happen here.
Yeah, I don't see it happening though. I think Black has got a solid position at this point. Again, he can target the C4 square, and I think that's going to make life kind of difficult for White. The G5 pawn now keeps the natural square F4 away from the bishop. It doesn't look like it's doing anything on A3. I'm not sure, so the white bishop probably ends up at D2. I'm not sure how Elliot continues after that.
And as he's thinking about it, let me switch over to this game with Ashik Uzman and Alejandro Canales. Interesting position.
So what is going on here? It's Black's move.
Is there any reason he can't just take the pawn at C2?
On B2? And that may actually be his best move. He takes the pawn on B2. I'm sorry.
C2. Yeah.
So on C2. Then White can take the pawn on B2.
Yeah.
And Black's pawns. So the question is, what's the material like after that? Oh boy, that's a strange looking move. So now, very interesting. We have the possibility of knight takes B7, rook takes, bishop takes C6.
C6, yeah.
And then you end up, and then the rook has to go back to protect the rook.
You didn't play it.
But he still, he still can.
It's still there, yeah.
But that's interesting because I thought you could play that and still have the solutions of wow, there's a lot of possibilities. So after you do that, you don't have to play bishop takes rook right away because the rook is still there in the corner.
Right.
You can play things like G4 and go after the H pawn, the F pawn.
And actually, C3 might have been the best move because all the other options are still there.
Yeah. You're in no hurry as White because you can't play stuff like B6. And now you got two rooks that are completely out of the game. It's in fact the threat is sometimes stronger than the execution. I think Black is in trouble here now.
Yeah, his pieces are getting cramped. He may have thought that he was unpinning the rook and defending at the same time, but it's gotten him into a jam that...
Well, and F7 is a weakness. So things like H3, G4, I'm not even so sure you can't hunt that bishop down. Right now, G4, bishop D3, oh no, you want to prevent that from happening. Maybe rook A to D1 threatens... rook D2 and G4, trapping the bishop. Of course, Black has moves, but what are they? What does he do? No, I think White is significantly better here.
All right, let me... the progress in... Elliot's still thinking on his move. He's taking his time right here. To him, it may be... sort of a critical point in how he's going to continue. Let's go to this game here. It's rare that you see two knights and a bishop on the A file, but here it is. This is Stuart Katz against Ian Wajaja.
Well, first of all, White has, let's see, how many pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have the very simple bishop takes F7 followed by rook takes A4 as a simple tactic, winning a pawn. What are the pawns like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that just wins a clear pawn. Is there more? I mean,
And that's what he's trying to work out right now, although don't see.
Well, the other possibility is to play e6, because if bishop takes e6 check, and then you win the rook for free. You're not just winning the knight for free. You're not just winning a pawn. And on e6, if he pushes past, then you have e7 check.
And then you get the rook
winning
for free.
a rook.
For the pawn.
So no, it looks like white is winning here.
All right, let's go back to board one with Winslow and Lenderman, and Winslow's using a lot of time here, as he should, especially in this game. What do you think he's considering? Because do you think he might be looking to switch his attention to the queen side, or?
All of a sudden, I'm having a lot of lag on Twitch. The Zoom is working, but the Twitch is far behind.
Yeah, sometimes there's a little lag. Sometimes if you refresh it.
I'm going to do that because I'm still on the Cats game.
Because the refreshing helps and it doesn't interrupt. I actually had that yesterday too, a couple of times, where the funny thing is on my screen. I think everyone else was seeing the update, and on my screen I was still seeing the previous game, and so then I just refreshed it, and it seemed. I
refresh it, and I get an MTV commercial for 25 seconds. So
that's right.
Well, I guess I should just subscribe.
Well, you can imagine what the position you last saw.
Yes,
and that's still there.
Oh, okay. Well, the idea is sitting there is, how do you come up with a plan for white? I mean, you got your position.
Well, he's not castling queenside now.
No, he's not castling queenside. I think the problem of knight a5, rook c8, all these things plopping a piece in on. Well, now knight a5 gets answered by bishop b5. So, maybe something like a6, knight a5, rook to c8, plopping something in on c4. Black has a simple and clear plan that's good. I don't see what white does. Well, here we go, queen b2.
Yeah.
I don't.
And then if he plays b6, you're going to go bishop b5, right? And then now you're putting pressure.
Yeah, but then rook to c8, and but then you got things lined up. Maybe that's okay. Geez, that's interesting. Then if you do play. Well, the problem is you can't play knight e5 because the bishop takes even there, and you can't recapture the pawn because the d3 bishop hangs. So I guess this presents a question to black right away, but I don't see it as being one that's difficult to solve, perhaps.
He ends up playing b6.
Yeah, I think that was forced. And now if the lineup actually may turn out to be okay for black. He's got c6, d7, e8. So things like knight a5, he still doesn't make any sense because of bishop b5. So things like rook c8. I mean, this may actually give white some time. He might be able to play something like, still not easy.
So let me check in on a game that we haven't looked at yet. This is Ted Wang, who Judith was saying is a scholastic player, very young, maybe 10 years old, around 1500 rated, playing Rachel Tiang, who's also a scholastic player, and like 1600 around rating. So a battle of two very young players, and this is the position.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the difficult thing is
Interesting to move the rook there to d4.
Well, he's protecting the e4 pawn. Black's on it twice. The thing is, now you're black. There's on the pawn. If you play something like b4, of course you've got rook b4. Your pieces. Oh, he's going ahead with the tactic. So it's kind of forced to play. Well, no, it doesn't matter. I think this is very good. So if knight takes knight, bishop takes rook, followed by queen takes. It's a material imbalance. Black has gotten a rook and a pawn for 2 pieces. And if he plays rook takes e4, then bishop takes c3. Yeah, so no, I think this is forced. So having said A, B is bishop takes rook, queen takes. And white has a nice centralization of pieces. Black has a little bit of material. I kind of like white. Yeah.
Yeah. Got the 2 pieces and for the moment a nice little diagonal there. Let's check in on that game we were looking at earlier, which was Ashik Uzman and Alejandro Canales. Looks like the pieces are where they were, and it's White's move, and it looks like he still has the option of knight b7.
Yeah. Well, right now the bishop on h6 is hanging, the bishop on d3 is hanging.
Yeah.
So if he moves something like bishop back to c1, just to get it out of harm's way, that's the only move that keeps him on both. That kind of forces bishop c2, rook d2, bishop to b3. What is going on here? This is a little bit clumsier. Oh, the other problem is now the knight's on both h6 and d6. So I think he lost his opportunity to play that sacrifice. So if he takes the knight on f5, bishop takes, and then rook back to like the 7th. What's going on there? It's then still difficult for black to get out of the mess on the queen side, right? Because if he moves the rook, the b pawn hangs. If he plays b6, the c pawn hangs. He's still got both rooks out of the game. So I think white can probably play slowly. Yeah, so I like knight takes f5, bishop takes f5, rook d7. You have a desperado move with the knight wherever you want to play it.
And there's so many tactics and things to look at that Ashik Uzman is forced to use a little bit of time because he usually plays pretty fast.
But they got plenty of time.
Yeah.
This is the time to spend time, not trying to recover from making a blunder.
Right. Which is not how you want to spend your time.
But that seems to be the way I spend my time a lot. So.
All right, let's go back to board 1. And speaking of someone that is using his time, Bishop d5 was played by Lenderman.
Oh, Elliot Castle.
He did castle, yeah.
Okay, then this makes sense. Not easy. Yeah, I think black is now demonstrably better.
Are you going to have to do something like queen e2 here? Or?
Well, you did your job of loosening up the white squares, perhaps. I just, again, I think Black's play is simple and strong.
It's interesting because like from a like an amateur's mind, I'm looking the king's in the middle of the board. You have the h6 g5,
Well,
but the reality is different.
There's a saying among con players that you don't want to give your opponent the mailing address of your king, so you leave it in the center. It can go either way, at any point. So if white loads up on the center, black can definitely later castle, and white is no longer attacking the king. If your king is safe, it's different if white had some push going in the center, but he really doesn't. And how he's not even threatening to push in the center, which is difficult. Maybe you're right, something like queen e2, bishop b2, c4, but that's a lot of moves. Meanwhile, black, if he plays queen c2, queen e2, for example, then black might be able to castle king side and play e5, and then go after white center.
Let me check in on Alan Finkelstein and Patrick Cutt. Patrick is definitely using his time, trying to figure out how he's going to continue from all this. Rook e1 was played here. Looks like Black's got some nice bishops, but how do we break that center?
Well, that's the problem with these type of positions. White has a small space edge. But Black's position is solid, and he's seems to be well placed. In these type of positions, I much rather have two more pieces on the board. Then Black might be a little bit cramped. But without those, again, White has just a small amount of space. How do you nurture that and try to build that into something? Something like queen e2 and rook a to d1, but let's see. I think this looks good. The more pieces that trade off, the less significant white space advantage is.
Let's take a peek at that game we were looking at with Ted Wang and Rachel Tiong. Now the rook has gone to f4.
Yeah. The material is about even. White is claiming to be more active by the way that he's playing, but I see now a list of games in front of me. I'm not a chessboard.
Oh yeah. No, I just I was loading the one game that I did not have up. I'd momentarily forgotten that it affected what everybody's seeing, but yeah. So. Let me get back to that. That was this game here, Ted Wang and Rachel Tiong. And I guess a move has been played.
Yeah, taking that. So he needs to play rook takes as e5 is being threatened. Yeah, it's you have a lot of pieces that look like they threaten to go to the king side by white, but I don't see how that happens. It seems like black has.
And actually, if we want to give viewers a peek into the kind of tournament directing that goes into doing an event, so I'm going to click on the Google Sheet here. So people can see it, and you can see that to do this manually, Judith inputs all the players here. She has to enter a specific match command here for chess.com, and then over here you see there's the link to the game. So a there's a lot that goes on. So we definitely give Judith props for managing a lot. Whoops, I think I might have messed something up. Oh, no, there we go. There's a lot of work to be done when you're doing manual pairings, but it gives you a bit of control as a tournament director, and you want that control wherever possible, because then you can help players in need. We had an unfortunate incident yesterday with the Blitz tournament, where for whatever reason Michael F. Pon Egner's time just kind of went to zero, and we were watching his game. He still had plenty of time left, and he got forfeited. But because that tournament was being run completely on chess.com, not by manual pairing, we as tournament directors don't have any control over that game or what we can do to fix it. So just one of the little nuances of online chess and what goes on. So thank you to Judith for all that hard work, because it's a lot of detail-oriented management, and she's fantastic with that. So thought it'd be cool for people to see what it looks like behind the scenes.
So I would have been tempted to have played d5 followed by e5. e5 right away. The knight moves where? The question is, white really threatening to take on c2? Because I normally would play to g3 and try to bring my pieces over to the king side. But I'm not so sure that that getting rid of the c pawn and just rolling the center pawns down the middle of the board isn't very strong for black. Going back to c3, take some pieces away from where I would want them to be if I'm playing. So things like knight c3, queen g4, bishop h6, all these things to try to flood around the king. I think just things like rook f7, the other rook to g8. I think black is doing fine.
Let's go back to board one. Elliot Winslow and Alexander Lenderman. So since we last saw, Elliot had played knight d2 and black has castled.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at this. Black's pieces are on really nice squares. White's are kind of discombobulated. He's threatening to push back really hard, but things don't line up well. If things like c4, you can't play d5 because the bishop will take queen. So, and if you wanted to reshuffle your bishop, and put your queen in front of your bishop to try to get into h7, well, you got a rook in the way. You got things, they're just kind of like a jumble of pieces where blacks are placed, on really nice squares. That being said, it isn't that white's position doesn't have possibilities. It's just, it feels kind of discombobulated. My position just feels slightly discombobulated to me.
It's funny how just a couple of moves can make a position that looks compromised or cramped or unsound. Now you can see the actual strength of where they're placed.
Yeah, that's why Lenderman spent as much time as he did deciding on h6 and g5. It was kind of like, okay, I do this visually. It may, to a lot of players it would look dubious, but he calculated that he'd be fine and that he'd end up with spreading those moves to put his pieces on some really nice squares.
Let's take a peek at this other game we were following with Ashik Uzuman and Alejandro Canales.
Okay, so they went differently.
This is interesting because now it doesn't seem like you can do what you originally wanted to do. It still looks good for white though, no?
Yeah, not as good, but good. I'm looking at, shoot, that doesn't work. So,
You're looking at something with b6 or something.
well, no. B6 he can just push past, or he can take it actually, and be on the rook. And so if he takes it, rook takes. You can basically give up your B pawn for the white's black's A pawn, but that's you lose some of your advantage that way. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be best to bail out right now and play knight takes knight. In which case you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same amount of pawns, but black's pawns are kind of not ideal. And then maybe follow it up with something like, well, the problem is if you play rook to
Like d5.
e5, yeah, he can just go ahead and play rook to c8 then, because you blocked your bishop. If you do that right away, if you play rook to d5 now, the knight moves to where? Probably back to e6. And then if you take on f5, pawn takes f5, then rook to you can go to d7 because the knight's no longer stopping you. The knight can go back to c5, you can go to c7. Yeah, I think white's still better, but I thought he had probably better way of continuing earlier.
So we have a comment. I was looking at knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, bishop to e5, followed by rook f1. It's kind of cool because this is like the chess version of Spanglish, where you're using a descriptive notation and algebraic notation in the same.
No, I understand. So if you play knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, bishop d5, black can play knight to e6, rook to f1, and then black can play f4.
Right.
And
then
the knight holds the pawn.
So then he was saying bishop d5.
Yeah, and I'm saying to answer that, black can play knight to e6. He's no longer got two pieces on b7. So then if rook to f1, f4 defends the pawn, the knight defends the pawn. You can play bishop takes, yeah, I guess bishop takes knight, pawn takes, rook takes f4. What is going on there? No, I think that's that very well might work. In fact, I think that's maybe what he's going in for.
So Judith's in the chat. You like that? We have to come up with a name. So Luca, what should we name that? It can't be Spanglish, obviously, but it's like Spanglish. So what do you call it when you use descriptive and algebraic in the same sentence?
Okay, so here's another line. If black plays, white plays bishop to d4, white can play knight to e4 on the c3 pawn. And if c4, then rook to e8 on the e pawn. Rook to f1, rook takes e5, and you defend the pawn. In fact, black's even up a pawn.
That's a pretty well-placed knight for black right there.
Yes, and
for the moment.
I get the idea of trying to improve the bishop. I just don't think that it works.
Let's go back to the top game. Winslow and Lenderman, and Winslow's played knight f1, trying to regroup the forces.
And my screen is still on the Canales game.
That's fine. I'll just give you more forewarning in the transition.
Well, no, I think I got to refresh this again. It's funny. The Zoom is right on time, and the
yeah, and that's how it is sometimes. Right, and I actually hadn't experienced it too often, but I was experiencing it yesterday in moments where I was just like a little bit behind. But Elliot plays knight f1, kind of gives the bishop a little bit of scope, but I'm wondering if he's wanting to put his knight on g3, just to prevent a push, maybe, of f5 by black?
Well, I think also
Or knight
f5 is the ideal.
And
F5 is the ideal square for the knight. If he can get there, then he actually has threats. Here we go. I'm back into the game.
Yep.
So the question is, what if Thunderman plays f5 himself, and then Elia plays knight g3 and then e6? He's got those squares covered. Otherwise, knight g3 to f5 actually might be something.
Well, this is as good as we could expect. I mean, this is a game that was a little different, sharp, has an element of newness to it, and good way to start off all the action for today.
Actually, in what I was just saying earlier, if f5 now, knight to g3, f4 actually looks pretty darn good for black.
What if f5, knight e3?
F5, knight e3.
It's tough because that pawn can just keep pushing away, and then
Yeah, it still might be worth playing f4, letting him have the bishop pair. But I think you're right. I think that's a much better idea.
let's take a quick peek at this other game we were following. Ted Wang against Rachel Tiong. And Ted is going for it, it looks like. Trying to put a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I just don't see the breakthrough. So what is white threatening? If you play something like knight e6, rook g6 seems to be fine.
I mean, could the threat be g5, right? Because, if he takes, you take with the bishop. Oh, no, but you take with check. Oh, no, but you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, g5, you could go ahead and you could even just take with the rook. Because if...
No, if you take with the rook, don't you get mated on h7? Oh, yeah, because it's check.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, he plays d4. d4 is played.
Oh, it was black's move. I'm sorry. Then this just wins a piece in the game.
Or do you go... Oh, I played that. I was looking at 96, if that was a possibility.
Well, 96 is still pawn takes bishop. So, okay, so this gives back the extra piece, but if you look at, the two pieces for the rook, if you want to, and I think you do, if you play queen takes, then bishop takes rook, rook takes bishop, what do you have here? You have, if queen, he plays this way instead. Now the knight can move. I thought you had a very nice discovered check with d3 in the other line, but
Actually, you could have gone bishop f8. No, I couldn't. Yeah, bishop f8. Because then you're threatening to take the rook if he captures. All right, let me do a peek in on board one because there's been some moves played in the game between Elliot Winslow and Alexander Lenderman.
All right.
So after knight f1, we had e5 by black, and then c4, and now bishop e6.
And which again is not. I wonder if I can. Here we go. Okay. So I see c4.
And I'm guessing if you go d5, he plays e4.
Well, let's look at that. d5, e4.
And that's what was played.
And then
because if you take the bishop or the knight, you just take with the pawn. And you
no, I see that. I'm wondering if that pawn does run kind of amok. So what's the best square for the queen when this is all done? You play something like queen b5? Do you play something like queen to d2?
The thing is, if you play b5, you're going to be down a pawn, right?
Well, yeah, it was more, is the black king position vulnerable because of the light squares, but then you lose your white squares bishop. So you lose your big attacking piece for those squares.
And that is a consideration that is next level thinking on chess.
I need to switch my sound back on, excuse me.
And to his credit, Elliot has been using his time to kind of think all this through. He's down to 21 minutes left, Lenderman with 45, but time will be well spent here trying to work out what's the right course of action.
Yeah,
And queen d2.
Queen d2. Yeah, keeping the queen in the center, b5 or a3 just didn't, putting it on the rim seemed kind of, hate to say the word dim, but so queen d2, and now the question is how to trade yourself dearly.
Is a goal for white to, as soon as he can, safely put that bishop on b2?
Well,
Get rid of that.
That airs things out even more so. So let's say, for example, black takes on d3, white takes on e6. Black captures with a pawn on e6. The thing is now something like bishop b2. Black might be able to, let's see, just go ahead and play e5, or he can trade and play e5.
I mean, white looks exposed now. I mean, with the open f-file and the long-range bishop.
Yeah, no, I think
Knight.
black is doing well here.
Look at that knight. We get to d4.
Yeah, I know everything seems to be working for black. Black's position. There's stuff lacking on the white squares to do anything that looks serious. Yeah, I'm liking black a lot here. Yeah, rook c to d8. The pawn.
We'll stay on this game here on the top board just because let's see how this progresses. If anyone's just tuning in, this is round 4 of the Mechanics Institute Summer Championship, Game in 60 plus 5. Round 4, we have 2 players with 3 out of 3 facing off, Lenderman and Winslow.
Actually, even knight e5 might be a threat on the c pawn. You're protecting the d pawn from everything but a sack.
While he's working it out, let's take a look at this game we had been following earlier with Ashik Uzman and Alejandro Canales. Uzman is up a pawn. He's got the bishop versus the knight. But it is black's move.
Our Zoom is working just fine. Here we go. Okay, it just finally switched. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
White's got to be a little bit careful here, right? Because the knight's well placed, it seems, for black.
Well, the problem is white's just up material, 2 pawns. So things like bishop f7, bishop to d5, just kinds of shores things up, and it gets rid of the knight from its dominating square. Yeah, no, I think white is just winning this. I don't see. Yeah, black can't win back. Let's see if he plays something like. Oh, okay, so he's played that. You can play, rook takes pawn. I don't see that that black has anything. If rook check, rook back. If rook takes c pawn, then bishop f7 wins the rook. I think I don't see why black just can't play rook takes f5. And after rook a5, if there isn't a check, something like h3, create a luft, and then he can take on e5 and be up 3 pawns. This looks pretty bad for
looks black. Like he's gonna. So this is a game where there was a lot of attacking possibilities, and now we're down to endgame. I'm hearing doggies over there.
Oh, Samantha. Yeah, no, she was jealous. She was earlier wanting to come up.
Yeah, that is not That is not Lucy. It's Samantha.
Yep. Donaldson once called her a 2300 player.
A top female player. Huh?
Yep.
So what do you think of this? Can progress be made here?
No, well, black is definitely better, but can he win? I don't know. Let me just take a peek at this. So King E5 looks like it's... Yes, Alexei, dogs and chess. We should do that, Al.
Well, I have a dog. I mean, I can love it. You know, the funny thing is that when I'm, for example, yesterday when I was broadcasting, like my dog was sitting just, inches away from me because I bring the dog bed up to the table or otherwise she'll bother me because she wants to be around me. So I move the dog bed to the table when I'm doing the broadcast, and she just sleeps in there. So she gives me emotional support. I get emotional support when I'm doing the broadcasts.
Yes, they're good for that. Black is better here. So you can play King E5, or you might just be able to play D3 right away. Your pawn takes, king, push. I would play King E5 first so that you can go over and mop up the kingside pawns, and then you have an H pawn that's free that'll allow you to go over and tie up white's king while you go over and mop up the other queenside pawns. So yeah, black's plan is pretty clear here.
Let's go back to the top board and check in on that with Winslow and Lenderman. Look, ooh.
And waiting for my board to switch. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Again, black is just doing very well here.
Yeah. This will be tough. I mean, would he be considering just taking the pawn?
Well, then knight f3 wins the exchange and then goes into an endgame where white's got triple pawns.
But do you almost have to give up the exchange in this position, because this is pretty solid here?
Yeah, but then I think you just might as well resign. I mean, it's, you're not, you have little chance. Is there anything else? Any other idea? The rook is got to be dealt with. It's under attack. So if you play something like rook a3, now you're still not threatening to take the pawn because of check. What can white do if he just bides time? Well, no, if he plays rook a3, then knight c2 wins an exchange. Okay, that doesn't work. If rook back to b1, then you're given, then things like e5, e4 come in, and then that pawn's then cemented in. I think it's kind of, I think it's kind of all over.
So let's take a look at this game. This is the game we were looking at here with Uzuman, Ashik, and Alejandro Canales. This is what we've come to here.
Again, I'm waiting for my screen. There we go.
Nothing like a rook and pawn endgame.
Oh my gosh. I can't, how did this happen? White was winning. I think this is probably drawn.
Is that because just both kings are cut off from?
Well, the rook can be active. So, well, actually, that was probably a blunder. Yeah, yeah. You had to continue to defend the pawn, and perhaps attack the rook, not from I mean, get counterplay against the pawns, not by rook c3, but things like rook to the g file. You had to be able to keep e5 protected. Now there's no way to protect e5, and now 2 pawns up, I think, will be a win for white.
All right, we'll follow that. Let's take a look at this other game. Let's take a look at this other game going on. We haven't looked at too much. Stuart Katz. We got 2 pieces and a rook, and who's hello Bap? Let's see. Ian Wajaja, and actually, oh wow! Let me just jump over to this game right here. This game ended. Rachel ended up winning because she was able to push that pawn there. The king was tucked away at h4 and can't do anything about this. So nice win by Rachel. A bit of a comeback because I think she was under a lot of pressure earlier. Now I'm going back to this one, Stuart Katz and Ian Wajaja. When you see it, it looks like white's rook on a1 is really removed from the action here.
So what is going on here? So black is up a pawn. I'm waiting for my screen to come back. It's lagging behind, and then it jumped back to the Wayne Rachel game.
Yeah, it'll.
There we go. So what is going on here? So yes, black is up a pawn. White really has no threats. So I gotta believe that black is much better, probably winning. It's not just a matter of how.
So I guess we got some reverb. We're definitely not in the same room, but yeah, we'll take a look at what's going on with the.
Is it my audio that's reverbing?
It might be, or the dog and in your audio.
I'll tell you what. Let me exit out and come right back in.
Yeah, that'll work. Man in the red shirt.
Okay. So I'm going to get out of Twitch.
Yeah.
Am I still reverbing now? I'm just in Zoom. Am I reverbing? Oh, I wonder if my audio.
Good. She says it's good. She says it's good now.
Okay, now I'll reload.
No, they know. Reverb.
Oh, wait a second. Reverb gone?
I feel like I'm getting mixed signals here. Reverb gone. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll reload Twitch. I had it muted, so that's very strange. But anyway.
Perfect. So we're good. We're good to go.
Okay.
But mute the Twitch. Yeah, mute the Twitch.
Well, it was muted, which is really bizarre.
Oh, it was just a reminder because you're reloading it.
Here we go, and Twitch.
Thank you, NM Jesse Cohen.
So, and now I'm got a commercial of An Amazing World of HBO. Okay.
Oh, HBO, they've switched it up. I remember there was one day we were having issues and people kept having to reload, and it was Wild Wings. That was the commercial that was getting hammered.
I guess HBO has all the cartoons now. There's everything flashing. HBO Max. Start my free trial today.
Netflix took over the Karate Kid franchise because I guess they got the rights to Cobra Kai, which was the next. It's actually the same characters from the original Karate Kid now, 30 years later. It's a fantastic show. But now they got the movies too, so Netflix is playing all the Karate Kid movies and Cobra Kai show. If you're into that stuff, definitely watch it. It's a fantastic show. Let's go to board one real quick. Netflix did not compensate me at all for saying that. And it looks like he did, he picked off some pawns. He won the exchange and 3, 4, 5, yeah. He won the exchange.
It's just a clear exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. White doesn't have any count for the exchange. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. I think White's threatening, of all things like Queen H4 on the F2 pawn and the G pawn. Not that he can take the pawn. Of course, the queen is there, but that he can start winning material. Then again, he's got nice centralized pieces and no weaknesses.
Let's do a check-in on the board 2. Patrick Cutt, who is black here, is the only other player with 3 out of 3. But it looks like Alan Finkelstein might be disrupting that.
Yeah, well, what, he's down in exchange and pawns.
Yeah, he just has to play this out carefully.
Yeah, but it's not that complicated as long as he doesn't allow some sort of white square and knight battery.
So something like
Rook E1 and then knight F3, right?
yeah, that would be a blunder. But something like queen to E3.
And Judah is saying that there may be some echo. Are you
okay.
Are you still hearing it?
Let me do one other thing. Let me check one other thing and see if when my thing came back on, I switched off of. Hang on. Let me go to Zoom. That's you here. And let me make this not high video. Let me do the audio, not mute the audio.
We can try things here. No problem.
So how do I maximize? There we go. I go here to the sound button. Yeah, it's like the microphone. That's what happened. It's my.
Yeah, like 2 mics on.
No, my headset mic is on. Yeah, no, I actually have. So I'm gonna switch to my head microphone for a second.
Sure.
Did that clear things up at all?
Let us know. Judith says nice. So,
Nice. Okay.
I'm assuming that's good. And so, yeah, let's go with that.
And maybe when I refreshed my headset that it came on too.
Okay. All right. So let's go to back to board 1 and just check this. Elliot is behind now. He's down in exchange. He's trying to see what he can muster here.
Yeah, I don't see what that is though. I mean, he can trade off the dark squared bishops, but that's no great accomplishment. The knight has no real great squares, right? I guess knight rook b3 threatens what, bishop b2 or something? But if he does that, then queen to d2, bishop to queen to g6. Nah, it just doesn't feel like it does enough.
So let me go to this game here because this is the Ashik Uzaman Alejandro Canales endgame. We have a rook and pawn endgame here. Ashik trying to see if he can make any kind of progress.
I think he can. I think if you play something like Rook A5, keep the king away, and then follow it up with something like, okay, I was going to get to E8 from A8, and put pressure on the pawn. That might suffice. Well, first now he's threatening rook check and going into the one king and pawn endgame. So if Black has to put something like either king E5 or king E7.
Now, if he goes king E5, is there any threat that the king is starting to separate itself from the pawns that are wanting to march down the board?
Yeah, there's so if king E5, I'm not sure if you give the check first. There was a lesson of if king E5, rook check, king up, then I think you can play G5. And then you're threatening rook to king to G3. You can defend the G pawn. You have a square to go to on rook F3 check. You can go to G4. And I think white's pawns matter more than black's pawn. Oh, okay, so now just rook to E8. Well, no. Again, that doesn't work.
Because the rook will just keep going F3 check and then back to F4.
Well, no, if he goes rook to E8, then king F7, rook E5, king F6, and you can perpetuate the rook if he wants to keep pressure on the E pawn. So the question is, I think you're still stuck with something like rook A8. The king is further away, and then you can play something like G4. Yeah, rook A8. I think that's wisest. Now, if he pushes the pawn, then playing rook to E8 makes sense because the king can't continually attack the rook, harass the rook. So you can play. Oh, you can because F5 is protected.
Let's do a quick peek in at our board one, Winslow and Lenderman. And look at those rooks for black.
Yeah. He's up in exchange. The
rooks, the bishop, I mean, scope everywhere.
Yeah, he's just up material.
Just do queen h4 probably or something.
Yeah, queen h4, you have queen back to d4, you have...
I mean, almost like queen h4, and then he's looking bishop e5.
Yeah. Well, you also have things like, well, okay, so the bishop on c1 is not defended, right? So you might even have queen to f4, but d4 makes sense. You're printing the knight now. You're if bishop b2, you have queen to d2. That's all favors black. Black is just up in exchange with a better pawn structure.
And that game between Ian Wajaja and Stuart Katz, Stuart Katz got mated there in a pretty looking position.
Yeah.
So good game by Ian Wajaja getting that win. Let's check real quick this one game that we haven't checked in a while. This is Felix German is white against Mansour Mohammed. Looks like Mansour was coming after him on the king side, so white has moved the king to the center, looking to tuck itself on the other side of the board. What do you think?
Well, white has space. Black has pressure on F3. And the problem is, oh, shoot. I think this may be hard for white. Black definitely has an initiative. White has space. The thing is, things like G6 for black and throwing the knight in on F4 wins the H pawn at least. Yeah, white might be in trouble here. What else? What can white do?
And both of these players are mechanics regulars, TNM players. Mansour's in India right now. I think it's close to the middle of the night, but Mansour perseveres and keeps playing, so we appreciate that. Let's take a look at the end game of Ashik Uzman and Alejandro Canales. So he's managed to push the H pawn, make that progress there.
Yeah, X-Key's out there on the board.
So is there a pawn that he doesn't want to push in this position because it'll?
Well, typically when you're playing, you prefer to play push the H pawn because you have cover from diagonal checks behind, to the right of the G pawn. So let's just say, for example, black is able to push his pawn one more time down. If white plays something like G4, there might be checks from A4, and if he goes to A5, if he goes to H5 with the king, rook to A5 pins it. Whereas if he goes to H4, if he plays H4, again, the pawns are in the way, but checks like from H4, from A4, the king can go to H4. But there's no, he's pinning the G pawn, but the H pawn is still then free to run. And that's often, how white wins in those type of endings. So the question is, how can black avail himself of that? I'm thinking that, black is threatening rook to D4 and E3. The king is separated. See. He's playing it correctly.
And Judith's saying that we're having an echo again. It might be the autocorrective nature of these systems as it makes adjustments. It creates the echo.
Let me turn off my headset altogether and just use the computer audio for both and see if that helps.
Yeah, try that. I had to do that on one occasion, and it seemed to help. And I think when we were talking earlier, we were using the computer audio. It seemed fine, so we'll test it out.
So here, let me just use.
Interesting thing about the games of this round, a lot of the games have been going long. I think in all three rounds yesterday, we had a lot of games finish, fairly quick, and then we had just a couple of games that were. That went past an hour, and today we still got 4 games going. We're almost at an hour and a half after the round start. So the competition's getting thick now. And
Oh, the opponents are more evenly matched, right?
Right.
So the weaker players are playing weaker players, the stronger players are playing stronger players. Yeah, by the way, how's the echo now?
what do you think, Judith, or anyone watching? Good, no echo.
Okay. So let me maximize this.
Let me do a check-in on board one, so I'll switch to that game. The top board of the round: Elliot Winslow, Alexander Lunderman.
Yeah, no, the queen's off the board. The exchange becomes even bigger.
Yeah. Now it's just technique, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I don't see how Black doesn't at least get into a check back the exchange for a pawn, at least, and
Enjoy all the winning chances.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and Elliot down to 5 minutes left. Let's check this. Here's this other game that we haven't followed much of. Adam Mercado appears to be up a couple of pawns in this end game.
I'm still looking at Linderman Winslow, so it'll take me a second.
Yeah, lag's all right.
There we go. Yeah.
Looks like just a matter of time.
Yeah, this is good for White as long as he doesn't mess up, and I don't see how.
Judith has the data. Question in the chat: how many whites has Elliot had? I think 2. I think with this white, he's 2 and 2.
Yeah, the first round.
And that might be Alan Finkelstein trying to calculate whether that will be his next opponent. That would be a good match, interesting match. Let's go back to this. Well, what's going on over here? Let's check that end game out here with. And both players have plenty of time. Alejandro Canales with 18 minutes, Uzaman with 21 minutes. Ashik is not usually known for using all his time, but this is a game where he's going to have to because there's a lot to work out. Is Black going to win a pawn there?
How did this happen?
Oh no, this is looking more like a draw. Ooh. So what is going on here?
Right, I think Black's going to pick off that pawn and be able to get the rook behind to stop the H-pawn, but then the king is close to support the advancement of his pawn, no?
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, something like rook a4, you know, so rook takes pawn check. But if rook a4, then king to f3, and if you check, then the pawn advances, and that pawn all of a sudden looks very dangerous.
Yeah. And that's what he is working out right now.
Well, the thing is, then if you play king h4, threatening to advance the pawn, then if then rook takes pawn is with check.
Right.
There is this thing about overplaying your position and taking a game where you're pleasantly better and turning it into a game that you're actually worse. So something like rook to a1, rook to a8 again. Then if rook takes pawn, then you check and win the rook. Or check and win the rook. would be great for white. The question is if he plays rook to a8, and then he plays, if white then plays e3.
I mean, it's funny how things can change because black was trying to figure out how to draw this game, and all of a sudden, there's winning chances. And if you're just tuning in to the Mechanics Institute in our tournament, and if you're new to our channel, hit follow or subscribe. We have a regular action going on at Mechanics. We have our Tuesday night marathon that we broadcast, our Friday chess social. We're actually figuring to do more chess content even during the week, either with interviews or events, or Paul playing some blitz. We're looking to do a lot of stuff, maybe people from the chess community. So follow and subscribe, and then you'll get notified when we're doing something. And if you scroll down below, if you're watching on Twitch, you'll see a donate button. Any subscription, any donation Mechanics gets, it all goes to support our youth outreach program. We do chess in about 20 San Francisco public schools for free, funded through donations we get from foundations, people that love and support chess. So anything we raise through our channel goes directly to that. We want to expand our outreach, especially now as a lot of kids are doing a virtual school. It's a challenge for parents, kids, and teachers. We want to continue to provide chess enrichment, especially in these times. So hit that donate button, support the Mechanics Institute. Every single penny goes to support youth outreach and youth chess, which we are now doing virtually. That is the spiel. So here we go. Took the pawn.
That does not seem right.
Well, he just hung that, right? Because now you just go, oh, no, you can't do that because of rook h3. You can't deliver that check.
I think Uzama just kind of collapsed. Okay, well, this.
Well, now you go. Can you play e3 here?
Well, he just took the pawn. Oh, okay. Here, well, you can just.
Because you can't go rook h4 because of rook h3.
Right.
And you play e3, now you're really threatening rook h4.
So if rook e3, what? If rook a4 check, king, rook takes, a7, e3, take, and it's a draw. Two queens on an open board.
Let me do a check-in real quick on Elliot's game because I can't count the material yet, but definitely looks interesting. Looks like it's still exchange up material, but is it interesting enough?
I'm still looking at the Uzama game.
That'll pop up in a bit.
Takes a long time for this thing to fly to Alameda, I guess.
The molecules and all that.
I know, I've seen you guys with like Nick, and I'm going, God, he should come over here because we have a fast internet. But I'm experiencing the same thing. I have a fast internet. Okay, so now, what's going on? Well, it's up in exchange. Is there any fancy stuff going on here? Whose move is it?
It's now black's move. White just played king d4.
So what does he do? King f6 or king f7, not allowing takes and the knight hopping in. But then he can play knight g4 on the h pawn. So if he plays king, no, he can't do that. Well, there's that's easy. Just pin. The knight's now pinned, threatening rook a takes, king over.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it looked. Let's go back really quick to the. What's going on here? Actually, let's check on this game with Felix German and Mansour, because a lot of chaos here. Oh. I think.
I saw the Lenderman game up.
Yeah, and actually, when you see the Felix German game up, I think Mansour's got this in hand. So what I'm going to do is it'll take time for you to see, I think, but I'm going to switch back to the Ashik Uzman game because I think that is the game that...
It might be better for me to watch another commercial. Oh, there we go. I finally got the German game. Yeah, it's... Oh, he's up a queen for a rook. Yeah,
yeah, and that had just happened.
Yeah, this game is over.
And I think in Elliot's game too, I have the Ashik Uzman game and Alejandro up. You'll see that soon. But I'm also seeing the Elliot game, and the rook is off the board, and Lenderman is just now picking off pawns. So. So in the Ashik game, so the rook is on A8.
Yeah, I think I like E3 better, but A8, let's see. The rook is on A8. I see.
H8, H8.
H8, okay. Yep. Oh, this may just be a draw. Let's just see.
Is it King F3 the right play here? Or?
Well, the thing is, Black's rook is now tied down. So White can go ahead and just continually check the king, or the king can only seek refuge in front of the pawn. If it's in front of the pawn, it can't push the pawn. So, so if King F3, then rook check, and the king goes to E3, then the king comes over.
And Alexander Lenderman did win that game with Elliot Winslow. Reduced it to an exchange up endgame, and then just started picking off pawns.
Yeah.
So, and we have two other games going on, but Mansour is up queen for a rook. I think Adam Mercado is up a few pawns. This is the game to watch.
But I don't see it being anything more than a draw at this point.
Yeah, and each player has enough time to calculate stuff out. I'm not going to blunder because of a time control craziness.
Yeah, in fact, it's probably simple enough just to play King G5, G6, take the pawn, and
Yeah.
and
Now, can the black king get harassed here, boxed in a way that white can pick off that pawn?
not without the king being able to go back and take, on H7. So, okay, so the king goes in front, the other king comes over. If the king continues to come down, white has numerous ways he can check. He can check from the A file, and then move the king over in front of the other pawn. I mean, there's just no way that white's on the far side, right, with the rook. So there's just no way that black can do both, protect the pawn and so a real simple is something like king f4, e3, rook check, rook check, rook check, rook check, and then take on e4, e3 rather, and then it's a draw that way. That pawn is not not dangerous unless white goes falls on his own sword.
So now you just push it right here.
Well, I'm saying that if you put who's moved, if it's I'm seeing the king on g3, the king on e7, the king pawn on e5. If no moves have been made since there, just king e4, cements the draw. Yeah, there it is. Because now if at e3, you just check the king, the black king, until it walks away from the pawn, and then you take the pawn. Or actually, wait a second.
You go rook e7 or something, man.
Well, if he pushes the pawn, rook e7, but then king d2. You don't go to d3 with check. You go to d2, threatening the push, which kind of then forces white to take the pawn. Otherwise, I guess you can play this game again till you get down to d2 and e2, but eventually it's going to be rook takes pawn, rook takes pawn. You could get to the point where white ends up taking the pawn and black rook checks the king off, and you can win the rook. But the thing is, black's king. Oh, actually, let's just take a look at that. If king to e2, rook to d2. If rook takes pawn, rook check. If king e5, rook check. And it doesn't matter where the king goes, you can continually check. If he walks away from the rook, then you can take the rook with your king. And otherwise it's just a perpetual. I think we're just looking at a drawn game here.
And just everyone's double checking themselves. They're not going to make a mistake. And the other games we're following are pretty. They should be ending soon because players have significant material advantage, but they're looking for that home run. And Ashik Usman double checking himself, make sure holds the draw. I'm sure he's trying to figure out if there's a way to win this.
So if rook e7, rook f check, king to the g file.
Yeah, you just got to make sure you don't get checked. Capture the pawn with check, and then bring it back. And Mansour Mohammed did win his game against Felix German. So 2 games left in the round. Adam Mercado and Nursultan Uzakbayev. Adam is up, or he's up a couple of pawns, and then a queen and rook on the board. So rook e7 has been played by white. So the king just needs to go to f2 or d2. It doesn't matter, right?
No, if he goes to f2, rook takes pawn.
And then just rook takes pawn.
Or if rook check, that's the interesting move. King e4, rook e8 check, king back to f4. I don't see any progress being made. If rook takes, then you queen. So if...
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting, actually. Rook f8 check.
I think he plays now. Rook takes e3, and it's a draw. After rook takes, you get the king or rook away from anything dangerous, But what you don't do, well, actually, it doesn't matter. So rook takes e3, rook takes h7, rook to a3, and it's a draw.
Yeah.
If rook takes e3, rook f8, you can play king to e4, rook check, king back to f4, rook takes rook. You push the pawn, queen. Yeah, it just.
And Ashik knows he has that option, and he's just trying to see if there is one last winning line, but seems like that's the best way to go. Just take the pawn, and agree to a draw.
Yeah, otherwise the pawn gets to the 7th. If you try to send some sort of bridge up, then actually I agree. The game looks strong to me.
And Ashik is playing on. Draw was offered.
Well, I think he's angry because I think he was clearly winning earlier. And
there we go. Draw agreed to. So we have one game left. This is the final game. It's Adam Mercado is up 2 pawns. Each player has a queen and a rook on the board. Mercado, who's white, has 6 pawns to 4 for black. White is also bringing their king up and getting it ready for the end game. This could be a while because each player's has a good chunk of time.
Yeah, but unless
White
takes up things or falls into a perpetual.
Yeah, that's what he's looking for. Thank you to Alexi Root, giving us some props on the commentary. I'm just a sidekick. Michael Walder providing the lines. So thank you again for jumping in and round 4. And
I saw you all alone here the other day. I thought,
yeah, no, it was all all by myself, which I don't mind. It's just I also know that there are limitations to the amount of chess I can comment on. And for those who don't know, I used to be a 2000 player when I was like 15 years old. That was more than 30 years ago. So now I'm at 1800 on my floor. So we've had some pawns exchanged here.
Yeah.
But
I'm waiting for the screen to refresh. What I see is pawns on A2, B3, C4. Black has pawns on C5, A4. And so it's black's move here. Black is wise to keep up as much counterplay as he can. Okay, so I see the take and the take. So white's up a pawn on both sides of the board. So technically, he's winning. He's just got to find a way to make his king safe and then start.
He's got to watch out for the tricks, right? Like the black queen headed over to C6 and forking.
Well, but that doesn't work because the rook can always go back to D5, right? Blocking the check.
Ah, true. Yeah.
So it's more like, okay, how can black compel white to get rid of something like, getting rid of the queens would be fantastic for white. So the question is, how does black continue from here? It would be really nice if, let's see. Oh, really? So black took the pressure off the B pawn. I don't know if that's a good idea.
So for people tuning in, this is the last game of round 4. Round 5 of the Mechanics Institute Summer Championship will start at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. and FIDE Master Paul Whitehead will join us at that time. So final game of round 4 right here. Adam Mercado and Nursultan Uzakbayev.
So no, I think white is clearly better. The question is, how does he realize that this is fine? This is one idea. The other idea was to play to E3. I liked black has to be careful.
And Adam wisely using his time right now just to make sure he doesn't compromise this nice advantage that he has.
Well, you might want to consolidate and reorganize. What's interesting here, let's see, how does this work? If he plays, what if he plays queen to E, rook check? Yeah, that might be a little loosey-goosey. Well, if he reorganizes, just brings the rook back to D3 to protect the pawn, and then go probing with his queen.
And that's exactly what just happened. He brought his rook to D3.
And then he can play things like queen e5, hitting the pawn and the queen. And queen would probably be wise to
and the rook.
and the rook. Yeah, it's but trading it is clearly lost for black, and the king can march into the game.
And he's short on time too.
Yeah, no, this looks again, if white doesn't screw this up, he's doing quite well.
And Adam, due for a nice win. Came close to coming back from the dead in one of the games from yesterday. A couple of the games actually.
I remember growing up as a player where I get a lost position. I played a lot better than I was beforehand. And it was like, why? And I realized that I was willing to take chances when I was in a desperate position. I go, why don't I take chances before I get into a desperate position? And that was one of my learning experiences of letting go of being afraid. You can't be an afraid chess player and do well.
I remember my best memory of a game I had like that. It was at Lyra, and I was playing a fellow by the name of Alan Simpson. Do you know Alan Simpson? Or
I think I met him a long time ago.
Hey, I mean, he was an older man. I was like 15, 14, 15, and older, white hair. And we were like C or B players at the time. And I was playing a game, and I remember where I hung mate and won. And the position was completely complicated. I hung mate and won. I saw it, and I'm sitting there, and he misses it and makes the only move on the board that provided me a mate and won. And so I took it, I saw it, I mated him, and then we're talking about it after. And it was literally, he missed mate and won and made the only move on the board that allowed a mate and won for me. And I thought that was wild. And at the time, I'm thinking, wow, that was a fantastic game. It actually wasn't fantastic. It was only fantastic because I won it, but there was nothing beautiful about it. But it was a good story.
Okay, G4. I would have preferred to play queen E5 there, tickling the rook, and then, threatening the C pawn. If rook to C8, then he's off the B pawn, and you can get the other rook back into the game.
And then black has just played rook E8.
Yeah, the thing is, you're allowing counterplay. If you would have played king E5 instead on rook E8, you can, of course, snap the pawn. That being said, I think white is still doing quite well. But I have a similar story. I decided that I was playing Kamran Shirazi when he was a 2,500 player, and I was an expert.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, okay, this guy is supposed to be a tactical wizard. I'm an aggressive player. I think my best chance is just to mix it up and not try to play safe. And so I was playing in a game that went into insane complications. I had no idea where I was at. I was feeling a little, I don't know what the right word is, not frightened, but a little wary. I looked at him and I could see he was clearly worried, and in which case my confidence grew. I just continued on playing, as aggressively as I could, and I ended up winning the game.
Oh, nice win. How many grandmasters do you have victories over?
Well, I actually, when they were grandmasters, none. I do have a draw against Lena Shankovich, but international masters, for a while I had a plus score against IMs. I've beaten Shirazi, I think it's 5 times. I've beaten Larry Remlinger a couple times. I'm talking when they were 2,500 players. I've beaten
before they were grandmaster.
Jack Peters. I have a win against him.
That's a nice win.
Yeah. Michael Brooks. I have a couple wins against when he was a 2,500 player. One of them was a swindle, and one of them was a game was a fun game where I had to win to end up with any chance for the money. I was a 2,300 player at the time. There was an under 2,400 prize, I believe. And he we were kind of good friends. Anyway, it got like 6, 7 moves, 8 moves into the Ali Ekins defense, where he has the normal slide opening advantage. He offers me a draw, and I declined, which stunned the players next to me. The next board over, they looked at me like I must be crazy. But I did go on to win the game. It was, but I said it's my only chance. I have a chance for money. For me to do it.
No, you got to take it.
Yeah.
My biggest win ever, it was just like a complete, like I was 1,700 at the time, and it was the first round of a tournament, and I got paired high, and I got paired with John Bidwell. Do you know John Bidwell?
I know the name. I don't know him personally.
Yeah. So he was like 2290 at the time. He ended up becoming an FM, I think. But I was an Alkine player, and he played the Alkine against me, and I was white. And so I was familiar with a lot of the variations at the time. I've forgotten a lot of them, but at the time I was really familiar. And I was familiar with some of what you shouldn't do. And he made a move that, out of the opening, like around move 10, that I knew was something that's not normally played. And then he just completely collapsed. And I won like a miniature. And that was the highest rated player I'd ever beaten. And it was fantastic. Peter Yu was running the tournament at the time. And he was so happy that I had won, because now by me beating him, it elevated Peter. At the time, the top 3 boards were on a stage, and he came over and congratulated me. He was happy for me, because now he would move up 1, because he was the 4th highest player, and now he would be playing on the stage. And he was excited. He was excited about that. So
that's always fun. That's fun.
Oh yeah, he was like, you're a star, like in that moment. So Adam Mercado really going into the think tank here, trying to figure out the best way to continue. And
probably just play something like Queen D5 and then challenge the rook on the E file. And Black will hold his white's queen, but Black can't really go in for more than a penny. It's White is up a lot of material, has space. Black has. They have the same amount of weaknesses. They each have 1 weak pawn.
And Queen D5 was played, and then Black responds with Queen F6.
Really? If giving up yet another pawn to try to sneak into the side door? The problem is, on queen takes c4, queen h4, White has queen to h5, protecting the king side. And if White takes the pawn, then this is just an easy win for White. If Black takes the queen, if Black then goes to something like queen to e3, E1. That would be the most dangerous. Oh, but then, no, it doesn't work. Yeah, this is probably the right idea for White. Don't take away E1.
So the danger here now is as precise and as accurate as the players are trying to be in calculation. Now that both are coming down within minutes of their time, it may get to a time scramble where you might miss some stuff and things get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I just come on, Samantha. So I don't know, queen e5. Again, a queen h4, then queen to h5. That never works. And then queen back to f6. I think she's jealous.
Because you're devoting too much time to chess. Oh.
Yeah, no, this seems like the correct idea. Then the question is, I think the only thing Black can do is Queen H4, which he does. Queen H, and now he goes back to F6. And now you got to protect F4.
So there's no mail on Sunday, so it's not the mailman.
No, she's
You barking at?
And walking behind me is Elliot.
Quiet.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I didn't particularly care for G4 when it was played, but
Wow. And then White has played F5.
Yeah, that's the only way to avoid a perpetual.
Right.
The thing is now the queen is slightly out of play.
So now, yeah, Queen C6 check.
Well, on that you have
And it also
back with the rook.
and it also covers the E8 square.
Temporarily. The thing
Temporarily.
is, yeah. The thing is, I think, yeah, White can tuck his king in at H3.
And Black's played Queen H1. Looking to harass from the back.
Yeah, but if queen to H3, if check, then the king can go up to H4. The king actually looks pretty safe there.
Oh yeah, because you can't do a check on E1. But time is an issue. Both players under a minute now.
Samantha, please. Yeah, that's still.
The king and queen are looking a little awkward there.
Well, so what? Okay, this is another way. I see. I don't like this as much. Yeah, no, I think I would have liked Queen H3 better.
So Samantha's not liking what she sees here.
Well, Donaldson said she was a 2300 player.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so H3. Okay, so there are no more checks other than G4, which wouldn't work very well. So the question is, can White take advantage of this pin by something like rook to E3 to...
Wow, played
So and now if white plays queen to g6, if rook to e1, f6.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
I don't know if that was necessary.
And then players got seconds on their clock. This is actually going to be a crazy ending here.
Well, I mean, I don't see any danger to white, but
I mean, that king is just boxed in.
well, yeah.
And
But now if white plays f6,
He took. I was a little surprised. Oh, and then, yeah, rook f3. Oh,
okay. Well, this.
I feel like.
Well, the problem is, I'm sorry. There's a mating net here, right? So the black rook. Oh, that's. Well, why not check and take the rook off? Okay, this is fine too, but
Yeah,
the other way was so much easier.
I think earlier that you're talking about, I think black should have found a way to keep the material on the board. Maybe because I think, but I don't know. I mean, we're here in a rook and pawn endgame now.
Yeah, but this is easily won.
Yeah.
The white pawns are just so far advanced. So I might have checked, but okay. See, white can mop up the queenside pawns.
Yeah, and that now it should be over because. Oh.
As I say, you can just mop up the queenside pawns and then give up the c pawn and be up a couple pawns.
I feel like something didn't go right here. And you'll see it too, because I think you're lagged a little bit.
Oh.
I feel like something went really wrong.
Oh boy. And all rook end games are drawn. My gosh.
The perils of time pressure.
Oh, but it's such a waste because it was such an easy win. Just get the rooks off the board. Rook e8, rook f8, rook takes, and your the queenside pawns win for white.
I can't believe I'm looking at a position where black's up a pawn now.
Well, and why didn't he trade rooks? And I mean, the rook pawn, that's an easy draw. King and pawn versus king. He wants to win on time? I don't know. I don't get it. Okay, rook check and then take the pawn.
Yeah, there it is. Let's agree to a draw here. Rook g1.
Yeah.
Please accept the draw. And Adam declines the draw.
Well, again, he's angry because he was winning, and he boy, these guys should take Paul's lesson.
There we go. All right, now we're gonna, and the game is drawn, and that is the final game of the round. So Good game, scary game at the end to watch. I think there were a lot of missed opportunities, but time pressure will do it. So all the games are in. We will update the standings shortly. That was round 4. Round 5 is going to start at 1 p.m. In the chat box, I'm going to put the link so you can check out the updated standings. The pairings will be there soon. And we're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll be back at 1 p.m. with FIDE Master Paul Whitehead, National Master Michael Walder. Hey, thanks for joining and helping out in the broadcast. It was a lot of fun. And
I enjoyed it.
I'm going to go find some food, and we will all be back around 1 p.m. for the start of round 5. Thanks, Michael.
Welcome. Anytime.
And everyone, come back 1 p.m. For round 5.